お願いします。
運がなかったな。
Get ready, fly!
What kind of testing has been done, scientific testing?
That is such a great question. This is where I went from being a shroud skeptic, because I was conditioned in Oxford in my residency that we deny miracles, we deny anything supernatural. All of the excellent questions you're asking me, the correspondence of how do we know he was crucified? How was he crucified? What blood type? Crown of thorns, nail print hand.
Is this the real burial cloth of Jesus of Nazareth? Well, Dr. Jeremiah Johnston, an expert on the shroud, believes the evidence for it is now beyond all doubt. So, my friend, that is a huge statement. Why do you believe that?
Well, it's great to be with you, Raj, on CBN News. I believe that based on the evidence, 102 scientific disciplines have spent over 600,000 hours of scientific study on the Shroud of Turin. And the great majority of them have concluded the shroud is indeed 2,000 years old. And based on my biblical scholarship, I can assure you that no one was crucified the way Jesus of Nazareth was crucified on April 3rd, AD 33. We know the exact date. It's the best established fact of the ancient world. And so based on this scientific evidence, and many of it is breaking news for your audience, such as the fact that the Institute of Crystallography in Italy has confirmed using wide-angle X-ray scattering technology that the Shroud of Turin, which again is currently in Italy, but is indeed 2,000 years old. We believe it to be the very burial cloths of Jesus of Nazareth. Keep in mind, for your audience, and I know your audience is full of Christian thinkers, all four Gospels mention the fact that Joseph of Arimathea wrapped Jesus's body in a linen burial shroud. The Greek word is sindon, anathonia, and then sudarium. And so we believe based on the evidence, not based on failing, not based on some kind of vibe, but based on the evidence that we do indeed have a 2,000-year-old burial shroud. Now, why do we believe it's Jesus? Raj, unlike other burial shrouds, and we have many of them that we have discovered from the land of Israel. Think about Lazarus. He's buried in a burial shroud in John chapter 11 when Jesus raises him from the dead. The unique thing about the Shroud of Turin, which is fascinating, is there is an image that is superficially embedded in the 14-foot long burial cloth of the front and back of a 5'11" man, Jewish man with a beard who has experienced trauma that matches and corresponds with all of the details of Jesus's death by Roman crucifixion. And that's why we believe it is indeed the burial shroud of Jesus of Nazareth.
Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. Can you give us a little bit of the details on the image itself? Like, how did that come to be?
This is what's fascinating to scientists, and this is what's fun for your audience. I know the 2 million subscribers of CBN News love to see ways that faith and reason intersect. And in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus, which of course is attested to in the New Testament, we have this artifact, the Shroud of Turin, where you have the death, burial, and resurrection all found in one artifact from history. This is fantastic. And Enea Laboratories in Rome, Paul Delazzo, spent 5 years of his scientific life studying how much light energy would be required to leave a flash, if you will, a first century selfie, if you will, of Jesus of Nazareth in the Shroud of Turin. And again, this isn't a pastor trying to prove anything. This is a light scientist. And Paul Delazzo states it took 34,000 trillion watts of energy, but It wasn't just the amount of energy, it was the speed. Think about when the Bible says we'll see Jesus in the twinkling of an eye. The Enea Laboratory said this 34,000 trillion watts of energy traveled in 1/40th of a billionth of a second to leave the image on the shroud. Otherwise, it would have scorched the image and destroyed it. And the image is just 2 or 3 microns thin. It disappears if you go closer than 8 feet to the shroud. And so this is what has baffled scientists. Scientists have confirmed it is not a work of art. It's not man-made. No one's worshiping some kind of man-made idol or relic here. They have confirmed there's no pigment, there's no dye, but they have also said we have no idea how this happened. The best rocket scientists of our day, Raj, cannot explain how the image is embedded in the linen cloth. They can't duplicate it.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Now, I know for a lot of folks, especially, let's just call it a Western American Christian perspective, and myself included, there's this immediate pushback. Was oh, this feels like the Holy Grail. This feels Indiana Jonesy. But I've talked with you, obviously, over the years, and the more that the evidence comes out, it's like, guys, this might be legit. And I know you believe it 100%, but here's the most important question. What if it is the shroud? Then what does that mean?
Well, there's a couple of things I want to remind your audience of, and thanks for having me. Number one, we wouldn't have a New Testament if there wasn't evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. Remember, no one expected Jesus to rise from the dead, and they're shocked when they see him. And remember Thomas in John 20, unless I see the nail prints in the wrists, unless I see the wound in the side, I will not believe. And what's awesome about Jesus, he meets us in our doubts. He doesn't shame us. He sharpens us when we doubt. And so let's not be overly pious. I say this in love to many of my Christian brothers and sisters who are watching, and, oh, I have faith. I don't need evidence. I don't need artifacts. I don't need archaeology. I don't need Indiana Jones Christianity. Well, the original authors of the New Testament did. They needed evidence to see that he was alive from the dead before they authored, the 8 or 9 authors of the New Testament, what Jesus did. Remember, John said, I've written all these so that you believe. So that you believe. In 1 John 1, he said, that which we have heard, which we have seen, which our hands have handled. I mean, this is evidence. We're not talking about myths or fairy tales or fables. We're talking about real people, real places, real events. And so the implications are we have the moment of resurrection captured in a 1st century burial cloth. And what's so unique about this, Raj, it's tied to technology. I really believe as we get closer to the second coming of Jesus Christ, we are seeing this phenomena of a controlled revelation of Jesus Christ tied to technology.
And you're going to Italy, next week to see it, right?
I'll be there next weekend, Lord willing, and I'll be filming my progress. I'll be posting about it. I have a film crew with me. It's the Feast of the Holy Shroud. There's much going on with the Pope's death and conclave. And as an evangelical Christian, I'm delighted that I've been invited to participate with the Shroud this weekend.
Dr. Jeremiah Johnston, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, Raj, for having me. God bless you. Keep doing all you're doing.
Oxford is really a factory for creating apostate Bible scholars, by and large. I can say that having been there and been in faculty of theology in Keble College. I know that's not popular, but it's true. I would often go home to my flat in Summertown after reading the Greek New Testament with my cohort, and I would ask my wife, Audrey, am I the only one who actually believes in Jesus in this group? And that's okay. And I was conditioned that this is a Catholic relic. There's no historicity behind this. It's a joke. And I was conditioned by that. And then I was scary. And this is why your voice is so important, Tucker. So many people, they know enough to be dangerous. They're TikTok smart or they're YouTube smart. They have a soundbite, but they have no substance to their faith. And I want to have a substance to my faith. I'm a truth addict. I follow truth wherever it leads. And my pastor, Jack Graham, began encouraging me to just look into the primary sources for the shroud, not to pay attention to the blogosphere, but to pay attention to what do the scientists actually tell us. And once I began to look at the scientific studies that undergird all of the facts I'm sharing with you, I remember it took my breath away. The evidence was so compelling. So to answer your excellent question, given that framework, 102 scientific disciplines have studied the shroud and produced peer-reviewed journals, studies, and cases for all the different aspects. And when I tell you it's the most studied artifact in the world, I mean it. 102 academic disciplines have spent 600,000 scientific hours, like my friend Paul DeLazzo, studying the lasers, like my friend Bruno Barberis, the mathematician from University of Turin, not a theologian, not a preacher, great guy, good friend of mine. Bruno is a mathematician, and he took all of the excellent questions you're asking me, the correspondence of how do we know he was crucified? How was he crucified? What blood type? Crown of thorns, nail print hands, nail scarred side, nail prints in the calcaneus, the heel, which is interesting. We'll talk about that. The scourge marks and then the patibulum abrasions, the crossbeam. When he factored all of those probabilities together, Bruno Barberis, the mathematician, said there is a 1 in 200 billion chance it's anyone other than Jesus of Nazareth. 1 in 200 billion. Because I like my odds.
Because the physical, the representations in this image
track so precisely to
with
the
scripture.
accounts.
Exactly. Not only with scripture, but with what we know of crucifixion from Josephus, from Philo, from all of the other first century historians as well. And so Jesus experiences the scourging, and then he's asked to carry the cross. And that cross, the crossbeam, the patibulum, weighs around 125 pounds, and he can't carry it. He falls. And this is one of the most moving experiences for me when I was studying the signatures of the pollen. We actually have not just pollen, but we have limestone and clay soil that is native only to Jerusalem. And it's on 3 parts of the crucified man in the shroud. Are you ready for this? It's on the feet, obviously, because he walked barefoot. It's on the knees and then the tip of the nose. So when Jesus is carrying the patibulum, he falls. And he not only falls, he falls hard. He collapses and his face gashes the ground because we have in the tip of his nose actual soil from the land of Israel, from Jerusalem.
So the crossbeam is the piece of wood to which his
right, fastened.
His wrists are nailed. And that's tied to the vertical post?
Yeah, to match the Greek letter tau. So it would look like a capital T. We see that. And he's tied to that post, but he's nailed to it. Make no
love so undeniable, I can hardly speak. Peace so unexplainable, I can hardly think as you call me, deeper still as you call